The unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect truth is seldom met with, even after 1,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Well, we've heard a lot of words already this morning. I'll try not to add too many to the heap. Last week's offertory for the Festival of Great Master Bodhidharma contains one of my favorite lines of teaching, which is, in describing Bodhidharma, it says, he did not try to explain the Dharma in words. Instead, by just keeping the precepts and doing silent meditation, he taught all around him. Wonderful teaching there. These words have rung true since I first heard them. And it's the same way my master taught, just by keeping the precepts and doing silent meditation in everything she did, even while speaking. So sometimes, though, we use words because that's what human beings do. So I've brought a few today. In reflecting on this talk, what kept coming to mind is that I'd be offering it to people, some people who've been here for 48 years and some who've been here for 48 hours. It doesn't matter. My teacher used to teach that we climbed the mountain of spiritual training in a spiral, and so we started at a so-called beginning, but we kept coming back to the same beginning, but higher up in a certain sense, if that makes any sense as a visual image. So how could I talk in a way that might be helpful to everyone? I don't know, but I'd give it a try. My approach to Buddhism is a practical one, and it includes the effort to bring the mind of meditation and the keeping of precepts into all aspects of daily life. To see the Buddha's teaching everywhere, for example, in the daily newspaper, as well as in the scripture books, in the drunk at the gate, as well as in the senior monks of this temple and the great ancestors of our tradition. This morning, I'll talk a little bit about an example of using an event of everyday life, in this case, a sunrise, for teaching and inspiration. We've just passed the autumn equinox, and now we're heading into the darkness of the year. As the days grow shorter, the nights grow longer, it grows darker and colder. Autumn comes, and it can bring a focus on withdrawing within, doing our practice, quieting down. And it also seemed to me like a good time to honor the sun as our part of the world turns away from its full brightness. One reference to the Buddha that I recently came across, by the way, to Shakyamuni Buddha, is kinsman of the sun. And the Pali word that I came across recently, aloka, can mean light, including the light of the sun, and the light of wisdom. Pali, by the way, is the ancient language that the earliest Buddhist scriptures were written down in. So I'll start by talking about a sunrise and move from there into some reflections on meditation. Growing up in sunny California, I've always loved the sun, the warmth, and the season of summer. I've always loved those things. This past summer was short. We had a damp, cold spring that just kept going and going. In fact, the first summer day, I noted it, was July 11th. And when it finally arrived, the air filled up with wildfire smoke. It was hard to breathe. But smoke has its benefits, too. It makes colors vivid in a certain way. And one smoky morning, glancing sidelong out a southeast-facing window, I spotted a fantastic display of colors. The chief of them was flaming coral, something almost iridescent that just doesn't appear in anything I can think of to name. And it was layered with sort of a pale turquoise, a blue, a mauve, a pale green. Maybe my memory is embellishing, but nevertheless it was a splendid sight, so I thought, oh, let's watch the sunrise, to myself. Certainly I thought it was just about to happen. So time passed, the brilliant colors faded to pale, still beautiful, and they lingered in the sky. But what happened to the stunning radiance of just a moment ago? Instead of increasing and growing brighter, it faded and turned pale. Certainly, where's the sun? It must be near the horizon by now. And I waited for, maybe 20 or 30 minutes for the sun to rise. Colors continued to linger in cooler tones, with a pale lemony gold shining above it all. And the whole tableau seemed fixed, immovable, and it seemed like it would stay that way forever. Well, nothing does. Time passed, continued to pass. Impatience crept in. I had something else to do, go sit in the meditation hall. So let's get on with it. Nothing seemed to change. I thought of giving up and just going on my way, but something kept me staying on. Certainly the sun must rise very soon now. And at last, there it was. Or was it? Just a momentary sparkle between the trees, a radiant glimpse. And again, there it was, more so this time, and definite. Nothing shines like the sun. And it rose, the colors faded, and the sun itself seemed to turn pale, and life went on. I felt a bit let down, wondering whether it had all been wasted time. And then came the boundless gratitude for the plain fact of ordinary light and another ordinary day. Another day in which to train myself and do my practice. Something bright and stunning may occur. All is well, this is it, and then it fades. Nothing much happens. Impatience arrives. Everything seems bland. All is still, and maybe a wee bit boring. And then the blessing of ordinary daily life. Does this sound at all familiar? This is meditation practice. Something calls us forth, and we begin sitting and facing a wall. We begin and we continue, sitting still with our familiar mental and emotional habits, neither grasping nor pushing away, allowing them to arise, abide, and depart. Perhaps something colorful occurs, and we think, aha, this is it. And then it fades. Nothing much happens, and we wonder whether it's all a waste of time. We may try to give up. And when we keep going, comes the inevitable boundless gratitude for the blessing of another ordinary day, the opportunity to train ourselves. An old Shasta Abbey brochure I saw at the beginning of my time coming here described the monastic schedule as a special ordering of daily life. That appealed to me. And I've come to think of meditation as a special ordering of the daily life of the mind. And I can say from experience that it changes the mind for the better. Order doesn't come naturally to me, and I'm finding it a helpful practice to cultivate. A couple of years ago, in sitting with a question, how can I deepen my training? The answer came as the notion of, well, it was very clear, clean up your room. Neither my temperament nor my conditioning emphasizes tidiness. And my first reaction was doubtful. Clean up my room? I've got too many other things to do, important things, to take the time for it. Not only that, I just don't know how to do it. I never really gave much thought, attention, or care to learning to clean a room. So nevertheless, recalling my master's teaching of following the prompting of the still small voice from within, I gave it a try. And to my surprise, it helped. And it's continuing to help. Now I'm trying to clean my office as well. And it really helps. Don't ask me how it helps, but it seems that part of it is loosening the attachment to a self-concept of a me, a disorderly, absent-minded, incompetent me. Who is that person anyway? Great Master Dogen's Rules for Meditation tells us that to live by meditation is the same as to live an ordinary daily life. Meditation teaches all acceptance, the key that unlocks the gateless gate. No matter what comes up, we see it, we recognize it, we allow it to arise, abide, and depart. Meditation brings the understanding that I'm not the center of the universe and that there is something much greater, which the Buddha called unborn, undying, unformed, unchanging, unconditioned, and some other things probably, but that gets the point across. Practice can go on for years and decades, and everything can seem fixed and immovable, perhaps on the dry and discouraging side at times. And we may think, what am I doing here? Facing a wall, looking at nothing, doing nothing, when there's so many important things to do. And yet, keeping up the regular practice of meditation and following the guidance of the precepts, gradually and or suddenly, a door opens. One day, you find that nothing seems different and everything has changed. The Rules for Meditation was the first of Great Master Dogen's writing that he wrote down after he returned to Japan from China, where he had studied with his master and realized truth. The scripture tells us to think of neither good nor evil, consider neither right nor wrong. And I'd like to throw in here that evil in Buddhism means something that causes harm and suffering. It may have a slightly different meaning than what we're used to. Something that causes suffering. So, what? Think of neither good nor evil. Consider neither right nor wrong. The scripture is talking about formal, seated meditation. Yet we can carry its wisdom, the mind of meditation itself, into every activity of our lives. And for those of you who came for the weekend retreat, that's one reason why we have mealtime ceremony, working meditation, ceremonies like today, and so on, carrying the mind of meditation into every activity of our lives. So, one aspect of think of neither good nor evil, consider neither right nor wrong, points to letting go of the judgmental mind. Anybody here have one of those or know about it? I call it sometimes the criticizing mind, the complaining mind, reactive emotions, all very familiar habitual ways of relating to life as we perceive it. There's nothing wrong with any of those judgmental, critical, complaining thoughts until we grasp at them or push them away In other words, until we attach ourselves to them and come to think of them as reality. In other words, those are funny-looking socks, for example. That's not there's nothing wrong with that thought as long as I let it go and don't put too much weight on it and just turn to what's right in front of me. I'll give an example of this that's in a moment. So when we attach ourselves to our criticizing, complaining, judgmental thoughts and emotions, think of them as reality, we block our vision of things as they truly are. Because things as they truly are includes all things as they truly are. Thinking of neither good nor evil, considering neither right nor wrong, is talking about letting go of attachment to the judgmental mind and the reactive emotions. The law of karma, moral cause and effect, means that thoughts, words, and actions carry consequences. We've heard this morning about the precepts in our scripture, and many here have committed themselves to following those precepts for many years. So there are things that are, quote, good to do, and some things are not good to do. And so we have precepts on killing and taking that which is not given and saying that which is not true. Those things are not good to do because they cause suffering. So we strengthen the mind of meditation, we follow the precepts, and in keeping up this practice, there comes a sense, an inner prompting, if you will, that points us toward that which is good. Maybe think of it as an internal compass, pointing in the direction of evil is vanquished and good prevails. Not thinking of good, but knowing the good in your own heart, in the hearts of others, and in everything you encounter. Now, this is easier said than done, and our practice is simple, not easy. For example, I encountered a snake the other day, and it's very hard for me to see the universal goodness in the form of a snake. I know it's there, I know it's there in my deepest heart of hearts. I know it's there. And my initial reaction to a snake is to just get out of there as fast as I can. Maybe let out a little squeak. I don't know. The other day when I encountered one, the little cat that lives with me had brought it in. And so there was an effort to rescue it, because it was still alive, to rescue it and take it outside. Although I didn't find myself able to actively participate in that by picking up the snake or even putting the bucket over it so we could scoop it up and take it outside, I didn't scream or squeak. I didn't even squeak. I went and got the bucket and whatever else was needed to pick up the snake, and I rejoiced that it was able to be picked up and brought outside. So seeing good in everything you encounter can be slow with some things, as the point I'm trying to say. For me, with snakes, it's very slow, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Sometimes the consequences of our actions teach us not to do those actions again. A baby touches a hot stove and learns quickly not to touch it again. A fellow monk described sitting at morning service one day chanting the scripture of great wisdom and thinking lots of thoughts like, those socks look weird, that doesn't sound good, and all kinds of other things that weren't things that the monk liked, but things that they didn't like. Finding all kinds of little things that they didn't like. Well, these are all kinds of random thoughts that stream through the mind, kinds of thoughts that we all know and love. And she noticed that all of them were about things she didn't like, and that none of them were about things that seemed good. And then, from another direction, in a sense not in one way volitional, but still an expression of a choice, came the thought, you don't have to do this, you know. Although the monk had known this teaching for a long time and been practicing meditation for quite some time, it came with a strength that hadn't come before. It wasn't coming from the mind, it was coming from the mind-heart of meditation. And I just wanted to pass this along to remind us all that we have a choice. We have the choice to sit still, just sitting with no deliberate thought, and to let go of those deliberate thoughts as they're occurring. We don't have to continue sitting there saying, this food doesn't taste good, those clothes don't look good, that music doesn't sound good. We can stop, and the longer we practice meditation, the more time it gives us to stop. We can stop and make a choice to see the universal good all around us. So, in closing, I want to repeat that our practice is simple, not easy. And it's worth doing. As an old master said, the way to the ultimate is not hard. Simply give up picking and choosing. Now it's autumn. Our part of the world turns from the sun as the days grow short, cold, and dark. And still, the sun rises every day. Something has drawn us here, whether last Friday or 48 years ago or 50 years ago, to explore the practice and teachings of our tradition. May they be of benefit to all beings. Thank you.